Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Daily Dose of Gatsby. Today we are on episode number 4. I am Shane Thomas. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at smthomas3. Also make sure you head on over to codekarate.com and sign up for the newsletter so you can get notified about all the cool things we have coming up. If you remember last time, back in episode 3, we connected our Gatsby site to a Drupal backend and we were pulling data from the Drupal site to create article pages on our Gatsby site. Today we're going to learn how to enhance that a little bit and actually create a listing of articles so you can have, a more traditional blog where you have a listing page, and if you click on the title, it'll bring you to the actual blog post or article page. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is make sure we fire up our Gatsby development server. And this will take a while because it's actually going to go out to the Drupal site. It's going to fetch the data. While this is loading, I'm going to go ahead and pull up our Drupal site and just show you one thing I did. So in one of the articles, I went ahead and added a summary. So if you are using Drupal and you see this, there should be an edit summary field. I added a summary. If you don't add a summary to one of your articles, you're not going to have that as an option in the graphical Explorer window. So it's nice to make sure you have a summary there so you can actually pull in that data. And this is what we actually want to show in that listing page. We want to not show the full content, we want to show just a summary piece. And if any of the articles don't have a summary, we'll just trim it to a set length for now just to get it up and running. So if we look back, our development server is running. So we're actually going to go here to our graphical editor, and you can see we can build our GraphQL query here. And what we want is we actually want to pull out the last 10 articles that have been posted on the site. So we're just going to show the last 10. So we're going to want to go all node articles, and we do want to sort this. So we're going to sort, and you can see we can kind of click some things here and it's going to give us the field, it's going to give us the order for how we're actually going to sort this. So we're going to sort by the field that we want to sort by is created, and the order is going to be descending. And I guess I could select that here. So you can see you can use this to kind of build out the different parts of your query. I can go over here and actually type this in, and it's going to work the same way. So it's just there's multiple ways to do this, but I like using the left side when I can, but it's also sometimes convenient just to type it in. There is autocomplete, so it makes it nice and easy. So if we go in here to nodes, you can see it's going to add this in, and inside the nodes we're going to want to grab the title field, we want the ID field. In body we want both the summary and the processed field. So the processed would be if the article doesn't have a summary, we're going to use the process field and we'll just trim it. Ideally, every article would have a summary, but we want to handle both cases. Let's see, what else do we want? We could grab the created field. We're not going to necessarily use it, but we could use it if you wanted to display the date. Inside field image, we want to grab the alt text. And remember, if you want the actual image from the Drupal site, you have to go into relationships, and then from there you can actually grab the actual URL to the image. So field image, local file, and if we scroll down, public URL. On top of that, so let's minimize that, we also want the path because we need to know where we're linking to. So we're going to grab the path alias, and I think that's all we should need. So if we run this, you can see I have my title. This one has the summary, so you can see there's a summary. It's the processed field is the full text. It has the field image, the path alias. So that's good. Oh, it looks like I didn't actually get the relationship here. So relationship, field image, local file, public URL. Okay, I didn't know it is there. But anyways, we have all the data here that we need. We're going to eventually copy this query, but first let's go back to our code editor. So this is where we left off from last time. what I want to do is I want to create a new page. And I'm going to call this page articles.js. So remember, this is going to be available at /articles. So if you wanted it on the home page, you would just change this and use the index page instead of this articles page. In our articles page, the first thing we're going to do is import React from React. We're going to import prop types from prop types. It allows us to validate the props that are coming into our React components. So we're going to import GraphQL from Gatsby. We also want to make sure we're importing our layout from components/layout. We're going to import SEO just so we can add some meta tags. Components/SEO. And I'm going to import something that we don't have yet. So don't worry that this doesn't exist. I'm just going to put it here so we make sure we build it. I'm going to import something called article preview. And this is a new component that we're going to create here in just a few minutes. And it's going to be from components, and we'll call it article preview. So this file doesn't exist, but that's okay. I know I want to do it this way, so I'm going to come back and I'll create it later. And the next thing we want to do is we actually need to create our React component. So we're going to call we're going to create a const variable called articles, and it's going to receive data. And we're going to come back to that in a second. The next thing we want to do is we want to create or make sure we're validating this data prop type that's coming in. So articles.prop types. Equals data, and this is prop types dot. We want to make sure it's an object, and we want to make sure it's required. Again, this just validates that the data prop right here is make sure it gets passed in. So it's just nice to make sure you have these prop types to validate the props that are getting passed into your components. So now is where we actually need to create our query. And so we've already done the hard part. So let's just export const data. So we're exporting our query. And this is a GraphQL query. Remember, we're importing GraphQL. We're using GraphQL. And so this character here is just your template literal character. So we're creating a template literal here where we're going to then now paste in our query. So this query is what we are going to grab from here. So I'm going to grab all the way from this open bracket down to here, copy that entire thing, go back to our code editor and paste it in. And it looks like I might have to tab this in a little bit. That looks like it lines up. So this is our query that we ran before. We know it works. We have our prop types. Now we need to actually figure out how we're going to handle this. So what this is going to do is this is going to pull in all of these articles. It's going to save it in data, and this is going to get injected into this component through this prop. So all we're going to do is we're going to simplify our variable a little bit so we don't need to worry about calling it data. So let's go ahead and do const. We'll call it articles to keep it simple. And it's data.allNodeArticle. Just match it up from down below, .nodes. So this just saves this, so we don't have to type this long thing into a variable called articles. And now we just need to actually return our markup. So we want to wrap this in a layout component. We want to add our meta tag, and again, we can add more than just the title tag, but we're going to keep it simple. We'll call it articles. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to give this page an h1, and we'll just call it articles. And then we want to actually loop through this list of articles here. And for each of these articles, we want to use this article preview component that we haven't created yet. But we're going to use it knowing that we're going to create it right after this next step. So articles.map, we just call the map function. And we're going to just call our variable that we put it into article. And we can do something like that. So now we just need to fill this in. Inside here, we're going to have access to this article, which is going to have access to article.title, .created, any of these items here. It's just starting on this level. So we're basically starting inside here, and we can grab any of this data. So let's create our article preview. And we want to make sure we set a key, and this is just something that it's a special prop for React. It's not actually available in our component, but we want to set it anyways. It should be unique. We'll call article.id. We want to pass in the title, article.title. We're going to pass in the path, that's important, article.path.alias. We also want to make sure we're passing in our image. And this is kind of a little bit longer one, so it's article.relationships.fieldImage.localfile.public URL. So we have that long one to type out. We're going to pass in our alt text, which is just article.fieldImage.alt. And last but not least, we're going to pass in our body text. So I'm just going to call this just summary. And what I want to do is at first I want to check if this summary is available. So we're going to go article.body.summary. And we're going to actually turn this basically into an if statement. So we're going to say if there's a summary, use the summary. If not, then we're going to use the process text, but we'll actually just trim it out. So we're going to put a question mark here because that's going to allow us to basically turn this into an if statement. So if this, then what do we want it to do? Well, just use the summary. Else, so we just do a colon, article.body.processed.substring. So substring is going to allow us to essentially truncate that text. And there's better ways to do this because this would break in the middle of characters or in the middle of words. You'd probably want to use some type of regular expression, or you could call a custom function to do a little bit better trim. And so this is just an easy way to just trim it at 300 characters, keep it simple. And we're going to close this out. So we're passing in these 5 props into this component we haven't created yet. So let's save this, and then let's go create this component. So we want to do this in our components folder. We're going to create a new file and call it articlepreview.js. And in here, we're going to do kind of the same thing we've done before. In this case, it's going to be a pretty simple component. So we're going to import React from React. We're going to import prop types from prop types. Import link, because we want to be able to link out to the actual article pages from Gatsby. Now we want to we don't need to import our layout in this case because this article preview is going to already be displayed inside of a page that's using that layout. So const article preview. And now we need to define all these different props we're getting. So we're getting the title, we're getting the path, we're getting the image, we're getting the alt, and we are getting the summary, if I remember correctly. And I think that's it. And you'll notice that sometimes I use a curly bracket here, and sometimes I use just a open parenthesis. So if you go back to articles, I used a curly bracket because I'm doing some additional processing or code before the return statement. If you just use the opening parenthesis, it's basically just like doing a return, just a little it's a simplified version for those simple components. Let's go ahead and output a div. Now we could add some styling to this, and we will eventually. We're not really focused on styling yet, so you might be wondering, why don't we add some CSS or some kind of styling so it doesn't look so bland. I just wanted to start with, let's show you how to get the data in the right spots, And then in the future, I'll show you how you can use some of the different styling techniques of Gatsby to inject your own styles. I'm not a designer. I'm dangerous enough, but we definitely will get into it so you can see how you can turn it into something that looks a little better than what we're getting out of the box with just some basic markup. So we want to use this Gatsby link component. And what are we going to link to? Well, we're going to link to this path that's getting passed in. And we're going to put this in an H2. And what are we going to put in the H2? We'll put the title. So we'll start with the link. Then we'll go ahead and we will use an image. Keep in mind here, and I mentioned this last time, we should be using the Gatsby image component. I'm going to show you that, I think, next time on how the Gatsby image component can allow you to do some really cool image processing. This time we'll stick with just a simple HTML image. Again, this isn't the recommended way to do it, but it's a fast way to just get something so you can see it. So we're going to input that image there, and next we want to go ahead and create our body text. So we need to use this dangerously set inner HTML prop again, and we need to pass it in this very specific format. So this HTML object is going to be the summary that we passed or that we're receiving as a prop. So it looks something like this. So here's our entire component. What we want to do though is we want to make sure we are checking the prop types. So article preview dot prop types. And we want to go through each of these props and just specify a little bit more information about what that prop is. So the title is a prop types dot string, and we want it to be required. The path prop types dot string, and we want it to be required. Image is the same thing, and actually all of these are going to be the same thing. Now, if we didn't want to, for instance, maybe we didn't want it to make sure all these are required, we could do that, but it's just simpler to require it, especially in this case where I do want everything, even the alt text. I want to make sure we have alt text, so everything's going to be required. And last but not least, export the component. For some reason, I always seem to forget to do this the first time around. So I'm going to check and make sure I actually did it down here, which I didn't. Export default. So make sure at the bottom of your components you are exporting them. Don't be like me. Export default articles. Got it. So we're going to save this. We're going to check here. Looks like it has one warning. Article is defined but never used. Let's see what I did there. I probably just mistyped something. I don't know. Oh, that's there. That's in a different. I don't know why that even came in. We don't need that. So I don't know why that was showing up, or why I typed that in. That's not necessary. So we should be good to go. Let's check it now. That was a previous warning. It's compiled successfully. Let's see if it works. I should be able to go to /articles, and you can see it's working. So this is the actual summary field. You'll see if I scroll down, this one, it looks like it was cut mid-sentence. This one was cut, mid-word. That's because I'm just cutting it on that 300 character mark. There's better ways to do that, but it works. It's simple to at least get something to show. And if I click on this, it actually brings me to the page. You can see how fast it's loading. It's almost immediate. As soon as you click on it, it's loaded. There you have it. You learned how to create an articles listing page while pulling data from Drupal, creating the articles listing page, and making it so you can click on the article preview and actually get to the article. So it's really useful. You can notice there's a lot of code there. If you ever need to be able to just copy the code straight out, maybe you missed something, you can't figure out what you're doing wrong, go to codekarate.com, find this episode there, and there's the full text or the full code is on that page somewhere, so go ahead and find that. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at smthomas3. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube. Go to codekarate.com and sign up for that newsletter. And Next time, I think we're going to go over the Gatsby image component. But until next time, goodbye.